Hi, everybody. Um, so we're going to take a look at the Shifting Styles badge. And first, I want to scroll down and go to Badges. Click on either the icon here or the word Badges. Click on it. And the Shifting Styles badge is the first badge that we're going to be working on together. So I'm going to click on that and it's going to take you here. So I want you to click on the word after required steps. I want you to click on the word Shifting Styles and it will bring you to here, the Shifting Styles badge. Okay. So what I want you to look at and think about, I'd like you to read through this, okay? And essentially, what it's telling you here is that shifting styles or shifting your style of writing is something, or shifting your style of speaking or writing, rather, is something that we naturally do. We unconsciously shift between the way that we talk to authority figures, the way that we talk to teachers, versus the way that we talk to our friends, our parents, people that we're very familiar with. Think about, I know it's kind of a creepy example, but think about when you get pulled over by a police officer, and we've all had that happen to us. And I'm not talking about the instances where police officers act badly. And again, not to say that all of them do. There are some pretty great police officers too. But, normal, maybe you're speeding, you have a headlight out, something like that. And a police officer pulls you over, and think about how your tone changes when you get pulled over because you're obviously nervous and you're thinking about the best way to get the most favorable outcome in the situation, right? You don't want to get a ticket. So you're thinking, your subconscious mind is thinking, what's the best way that I can sound respectful and make sure that this police officer goes away, right? I have a scripted line that I say, and it just pops out every time I get pulled over. And yes, I do get pulled over too. I make mistakes. And I say something like, "Hi, sir, what seems to be the problem?" Or "What seems to be the problem, officer?" And my voice gets really high and it's really cheery and I enunciate everything and I'm super respectful and I look at him and I listen really hard. And that's not always effective, but, right, it's worked enough times that I, subconsciously use it. Okay. So, think about other times where you've changed the way that you speak just because you're in a specific situation and you want that situation to go favorably, right? That's shifting styles. That is shifting styles, okay? And sometimes it's also called code switching, right? And you notice that I mentioned code switching when we talked about Malcolm X's Homemade Education. This is the same kind of thing where you think about what your audience is receptive to and you kind of subconsciously change it. Well, code switching is thinking about it instead of this being subconscious and something that you kind of do intuitively. This is something that I want you to start thinking about in terms of your audience, right, in a conscious way. So think consciously about what your audience would be receptive to. What do you think they would be receptive to and that they would listen to, right, and be respectful of? Okay, so there's a video here that I want you to watch, okay, and then I want you to read through, what is style shifting? Why do we shift styles, right? And we talked about One of the reasons why you would shift styles is to um, create a favorable outcome, right? So that you can have your audience hear you and listen to you, right? So we all have a dialect, right? And we all have a linguistic style. Again, we talked about this in the Lee Toneucci piece, right? Everybody has an accent. If you think you don't have an accent, then you haven't listened to a recording of yourself. And we're going to remedy that too. Okay. But everybody has an accent. I have an accent. I have a New York, New Jersey accent. I've softened it up a little bit for the classroom. But when I talk to my friends, my accent gets a lot stronger, right? And so, and we all do that, right? We all speak differently when we're in mixed company, as in, when we're not around people that um, we're familiar with, right? When we're around strangers, right? And that's what mixed company means. When you're around strangers, people that you don't know, people whose backgrounds you may not know, so that you can, and so you would maybe be a little bit more formal, okay? So there's a just for fun here. All of the ways that people talk about soda, right? Or the words that people use for soda. I have a family in Minnesota, they call soda pop, right? And in New Jersey, we call it soda, right? Some places in the world that all soda is referred to as Coke, right? So, is a reference to Coca Cola. So, everyone is different. And this is kind of a little fun map to show you how that is different around the world, right? So, and here's a personal dialect map. Hi, y'all, use, you guys, right? So and a lot of that has to do with charting um, pronouns, right? So we say like you all, y'all, right? Up north in New Jersey, we say you guys. So this is kind of an interesting way to look at other people's dialects and also look at your own, right? Because again, we all have one. The only wrong answer is, well, I don't have an accent. Yes, you do. We all do, right? We may not hear it because it's familiar, but we definitely do. Okay? So I want you to read through this, okay? And especially this section here, reactions to people's speaking style, okay? Because, have you ever been discriminated against because you are from the North, right? Somebody assumes that you're mean because you're a Northeasterner. Or maybe you're from the South and you traveled up North and someone assumes that you're not intelligent because you're from the South, right? So that's people discriminating against your dialect or your style, and it's incorrect, right? Because you know that just because you're from the South, you're not a stupid person. You also know, if you're from the North, that you're not necessarily a mean person because you're from New York or New Jersey or Massachusetts, right? So, like I had mentioned in the other video, that, some people would refer to you as maybe like a masshole if you're from Massachusetts, right? So, the idea here is to think about, right, the different ways that we discriminate against people because of the way that they talk, and how, what that stereotype is, maybe where that stereotype came from, but the fact that it's not necessarily true, right? So, I mean, I'm from New York, New Jersey. I tend to think that I'm pretty nice, right? I know a lot of people from the South who are extremely smart. And, people from the Midwest, right? the stereotype is the Midwestern accent, that you must be like a simple farmer person. I know a lot of people from the Midwest who are very sophisticated, intelligent people, right? It's a stereotype. It's a generalization that's not true, right? So I want you to read through this, but I want you to think about that while you read through it, okay? So, but what I want us to talk about, and I'm going to put up a forum for this for us to chat about, is this video, the second video here, okay? I want you to watch it, but here's the thing. You may find it, depending on where you're from, you may find it to be a little bit offensive, right? And I want you to explore that. I want you to think about that. Like, why does this hit home and hurt your feelings maybe a little bit? Or why do you, maybe feel bad for the person who's getting discriminated, okay, against? Because the people in this video have very strong opinions about Southerners, and about Northerners. Okay, so, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to chat about this, and we're going to discuss how everybody feels, right? How it made you feel, what your first reactions were, because there's a lot of strong feelings going on here, right? And discrimination against a linguistic style can really, really raise a lot of strong, either positive or negative feelings, right? Mostly negative feelings, okay? So, and I want you to shift down here, and after we do our forum, right? So the forum is going to ask you a lot of these same questions here, okay? And after we discuss in the forum and maybe, we give each other some suggestions, I want you to come up with a draft for your assignment, right? And the assignment is asking you to write a few paragraphs reflecting on the point made in these videos, right? So what do these women seem to assume about language and dialect? What things that the women said in these clips did you find yourself agreeing with or disagreeing with, right? Do you agree or disagree that the way people talk and write reflects their intelligence or education, right? And what is your response to the point made by these women, right? So that's your step one. Step two, right? Write a few paragraphs articulating your own stance on these issues. Use these questions to guide your thinking. Do you speak differently than you write? If so, do you do so in all writing situations or only some? Right? Give examples of how you speak and write differently and the reasons for this. Do you ever think there would be a valid situation to write in a style that would be considered non-standard? Why or why not? What about the situation would make it appropriate or inappropriate to write in a non-standard style? What about speaking? Would there ever be a valid situation to speak in a style that's considered non-standard? Why or why not? Okay, so in our forum, we're going to be working on these questions here and exploring these questions. And then, right, there's a reflecting paragraph, a reflecting section. Write a few paragraphs to reflect on what you have learned from this badge. And also you can include what you learned from the forum as well. As a student in a composition course, do you think that in order to be a good writer, you need to also speak in a certain way? Why or why not? What has this badge made you realize about your own language attitudes? And what will you now keep in mind as you write across for a variety of settings? And how will this badge impact the way you think about language and dialect in broader terms? So these questions are good reflective questions, but also wait until we've done the forum to answer these questions, because the conversations that we're going to have on the forums will help you to reflect on and think about these questions. Okay, so in the next day or so, look for a forum that is going to talk about these questions here. But in the meantime, I want you to read through the Shifting Styles badge and start thinking about, this is just an introduction, but really start thinking about what's going on in this video down here. Okay? All right, everybody, until next time.